What's good guys, Bufkin over here, hope you all are doing well. In today's video we're breaking down the winter seasonal uniforms and figuring out which ones are actually worth your crystals and money. These uniforms only come out once a year, so you don't really want to waste your resources on the wrong picks and also miss out on the uniforms itself. We're going to be starting off with the crystal cost uniforms, ranking them from not worth it to good value, and then do the same for the paywall uniforms. So yeah, without further ado, let's get straight into it. The first uniform that we are looking at is the crystal cost seasonal for Deadpool. Arguably the worst uniform out of the bunch. He has gotten better uniforms since its release, so I would 100% recommend you not to buy this uniform as it has little to no value. Moving swiftly on to the next one, we have Groot's uniform. He also has better uniforms, however his best uniform is a summer seasonal, which is actually kinda funny. Anyways, this uniform literally doesn't have any use case or value, so yeah, again, this is a skip for sure. Right after that, we have Kingpin with his winter criminal uniform. This one has a much better alternative, which is actually pretty good value in PvE, especially in Alliance Battle. As for this uniform, it's not even comparable to the new one, so this one is for sure a skip. Following that, we take a look at the Magneto uniform. For the most part, it is pretty washed, however with the recent Alliance Battle changes, his value has gone up a little. That said, I wouldn't recommend picking up this uniform or tier 4ing Magneto at this point. However, he does still have relevance in the mutant villain and male mutant restrictions for Alliance Battle, which is actually worth acknowledging. It is currently on discount, so yeah, this ends up being a very questionable purchase rather than being a clear skip or a buy. Hence why I'm gonna leave this one up to you guys. Just know exactly what you're getting value-wise before committing to him. Similar to Magneto, Gambit is up next. Unlike Magneto though, his value didn't just go up, it skyrocketed. With the new restrictions, Gambit is an ideal pick for the male mutant days and also for the Blast Hero male restrictions, unless you're really tryharding with Doctor Strange in the space suit uniform. Even though this is a full crystal cost uniform, I actually do recommend picking it up. His alternatives simply don't deliver comparable results, and right now Gambit just stands out as the best value option for those restrictions. And speaking of good value, we followed that up with Phil Coulson, in my opinion one of the best overall supports in the game. However, before we move forward, I do want to mention that there was a data mine about 6 months ago referring Phil Coulson. So yeah, there's always a chance he could get a rework down the line, so regardless of what I do recommend here, just keep that in mind. That said, Phil is genuinely goated. His PvE value is insane, and on top of that, the damage reduction and HP buff for superhero characters gives him insane value in PvP as well. The only downside is that he doesn't have a tier 4, so you can't really use him in World Boss Legends Plus, but honestly that barely dents his overall value. Because of how much he brings to the table across multiple game modes, I would absolutely recommend picking this uniform up. And now we move on to the latest winter crystal cost uniform, Scarlet Spider. His support buffs only apply to speed characters, and for Alliance Battle specifically, he does have a cheaper alternative in Amada's show. I actually tested the two head-to-head in a separate video, so I'll leave the link down in the description if you want to check that out. But to summarize the video, the difference was very minimal. Because of that, Spidey becomes a less enticing option if you already own Cho. Where his value really comes in is his tier 4 availability. Being able to advance him to tier 4 means you can use him in World Boss Legends Plus, and on top of that, he's one of the only tier 4 supports with the agility tag, which gives him real significance at higher stages. So this one really depends on your goals. If you are pushing World Boss Legends Plus, care about tier 4 support value, he is worth considering. If you are not focusing on World Boss, you can safely skip him for now and pick him up later sometime. With that, we wrap up the crystal cost uniforms and move on to the paywall uniforms. Unlike previous years, this time around they're giving out a total of 15 tokens for absolutely free instead of 10. And when you factor in the discounts, you can actually pick up some of these uniforms for a lot cheaper than usual. With that in mind, let's take a look at the first uniform, Gwenpool. This one is absolutely not worth it. she really has no meaningful use right now, so without wasting too much time here, this one is a clear skip. Right after that we have Magic, and this one is also a skip. She has a much better Marvel Rivals uniform that you will often see being used in PvP game modes, making this seasonal option unnecessary. On the bright side, she has basically been released from the seasonal prison, so you're not missing out on anything by skipping this uniform. Following that, we have Rogue, and this uniform is actually very good in my opinion. She is hands down the best farming character in the game, and she also has some early stage world boss value. If you are a dedicated farmer and want to maximize efficiency, this uniform is definitely worth picking up. That said, you can realistically get by without her. So yeah, this one really comes down to personal preference and how much you value farming efficiency. One really cool thing about her is that she has 3 different elemental damage types built into her kit and her skills, which is something no other character has. Let's move on to the next uniform now for Sharon Rogers. She got this uniform last year, and for most of the year it honestly didn't feel worth it. However, with the new Alliance Battle Extreme Blast Human Female restriction, her value has gone up quite a bit, and she's now a very solid pick for Alliance Battle Extreme. That said, Invisible Woman is still the best option for that restriction, but since Sue is much more valuable in PvP, it's not really worth building her for just one restriction in ABX, which ends up making Sharon the more practical standout for that restriction. Overall, Sharon is a decent PvE character, however, personally I don't think her Alliance Battle Extreme value alone justifies spending $30 on this uniform. You can run her Poseidon uniform instead and honestly not lose much value in my opinion. Following that, we move on to the Paywall supports, starting with Black Cat. She's actually a very strong Alliance Battle support, with most of her value coming from her leadership along with her support artifact. Out of the 5 restrictions she qualifies for, I think she is the best for like at least 3 of them. So if you want to improve your Alliance Battle performance, Black Cat is definitely worth picking up. On top of that, she is also discounted, so for a total of 20 tokens you can pick her up, meaning if you collect the 15 tokens for free, for an additional $5 you can pick this uniform up, which is actually pretty decent value. But for even better value, we move on to White Fox. This uniform is excellent. Almost in the similar tier as Phil Coulson when it comes to overall usefulness, she brings strong PvE value while also offering real impact in PvP, which is always a huge plus. Her buffs apply to superhero allies and leadership tagged characters, so keep that in mind. But those tags cover a lot of top tier characters. Because of that broad coverage and multiple game modes, White Fox is an absolute must buy if you don't already have her and are willing to spend a bit. And finally, we have the last uniform in this video, the brand new Madelyne Pryor uniform. This was the first ever native tier 2 Paywall seasonal uniform, which automatically made it the most expensive uniform to be released to date. Going into it, most people expected her to be purely PvP focused, but after more testing, she actually turned out to be a pretty solid option for mutant villain restriction in Alliance Battle Extreme. I've made a couple of videos on her already, so if you want a deeper breakdown on her PvP and PvE value, be sure to check those out. Overall, Madelyne ends up being one of the best hybrid characters in the game with this uniform. In PvP, she doesn't quite compete with the monsters like Null or Sentry, but she comfortably holds her own against other top meta characters like the Atoms, Silver Surfers, and Wolverines. And interestingly enough, even with a PvP oriented build, she still performs very well in PvE, which adds a lot to her value. That said, she is, in my opinion, not a must buy. You can absolutely do without her, and considering her very high cost, especially being a deluxe pack character, so at the end of the day it really comes down to whether you're willing to spend that money. Her PvE alternatives already exist. What really makes her stand out is her PvP value, and that's where the uniform earns its place. So yeah, what do you think? Is this uniform a must buy or just a what if? With that, we wrap up this video. The value for most characters are relative, metas shift, restrictions change, but supports tend to hold their value the longest, and that's something you should keep in mind. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments, and if this video helped you out, be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more Marvel Future Fight content. But that's it from me, guys. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Until then, take care and peace.